The top 3 mistakes leaders make as they move forward in creating their one destination. These mistakes are sneaky. They're not even mistakes. They will just actually erode what you're doing. And it'll help you. These things will make you need to micromanage. So they take away your ability to be an effective leader. So if you're interested in leading, if you're interested in not micromanaging, take notes. Is anybody like interested in not micromanaging, like not having to put fires out and not having to like do a lot of interventions that take you away from what you're doing, like having to manage versus lead? Sometimes you need to do both, but okay. If you're interested, then you can say, yes, I'm interested. Okay, top three biggest mistakes. Number 1, they focus on the how and not the why. They get so granular and into the weeds that they don't focus on that big picture where they're wanting to go. Because if you have a big enough vision, then people know, okay, well, I have to do things that are going to get us towards there. They focus on the operational stuff. Now, you have to do some operational stuff, but as a leader, you need to be visionary. You need to show people why we're doing this. Because sometimes it feels like delegation and micromanaging. If I tell you what to do, your natural inclination is to what? It's to resist. But when you have a bigger picture, you can say, hey, where do you see to go? How can you accomplish this? How can you have this big picture? So really focusing on the why and that vision. If you don't have a vision, but you focus on the micro stuff, you're going to be frustrated. You have to micromanage. Number 2, you don't have aligned expectations or an aligned process. So if you don't have aligned expectations, so I learned aligned expectations with my wife. My version of the kitchen clean is not the same as hers. And so every time I thought I was doing something right, it wasn't right. So as a leader, every time you don't have a clear expectation or your team doesn't have a clear expectation, there's going to be this level here of frustration, uncertainty. And then it starts to chip away, which means you need to go back in and say, hey, by the way, you're not doing this right. Or they start feeling frustrated, or they don't start communicating. Or there's no aligned process. They don't know actually like what they're supposed to be doing, or where am I supposed to be going? Where am I supposed to prioritize? And every time as a leader, you have to go back in, you have to start dealing with conflicts. You have to start dealing with challenges. You have to really like hold people's hand instead of giving them the big picture of where they want to go. And that's because there's no expectations in terms of what that is. There's no clear scorecard. There's no clear goals. There's no clear priorities. And there's no process. We actually don't know, like, how often are we communicating? I was leading a group the other day and they're like, we've been feeling this way for 6 years. And the CEO was like, well, this is so new. I can't believe you're telling me this. This is coming out of left field. It's like, no, we've been feeling this for a long time. We just never had the opportunity to talk about it. So you need to have a process to stay on top of your strategy and stay on top of the execution. So you need to have aligned expectations, the goals, the targets, and then an aligned process. So everybody knows, like, how are we doing this? And then the third is focusing on the plan, but not the environment around the plan. And that speaks to values, that speaks to culture, that speaks to language, that speaks to the environment that is going to support your plan. You can have the best document in the world, but if you have a toxic culture, if you don't have communication, if your team isn't working well together, you're not going to move it forward. The analogy I use is like a bowl of fruit. If you have one moldy fruit, what happens to the rest of the fruit? If you have frustration or resentment around one of your employees, or even at the leadership team level, if you have resentment towards somebody else and left unchecked, what happens? I really want you to get present to like how nasty these things are and how they're going to erode your plan. And your plan is probably worth like millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And these are the 3 things that are really going to cost you. They're going to cost you like profitability and not hit your goals, but they're also going to cost you your like quality of life as a human being, because you bring this stuff home to your spouse or your kids and then you complain. And then you're like, man, I hate my job sometimes. I hate my people. Why is this person like this? The reason we do strategic planning is to help you feel confident, help you have a plan, because it's going to make your family happier. It's going to make your work happier, because that's where you spend all your time. It's going to make your family happier. It's going to make your community happier. We change the world through strategic planning, and we help people solve these 3 things.